He found her injured on the trail and carried her home. For weeks he cared for her, never imagining who she really was. When she woke up and saw the widowed single dad fighting for his kids, she decided to hide her billionaire secret until she couldn't anymore. The deep voice cut through the quiet of the Colorado forest, startling the woman sitting on a moss-covered boulder. She looked up, her eyes a mix of pain and relief. A rugged man, his face weathered by years outdoors, watched her with real concern. "I slipped on the rocks by the creek," she said, trying to stay composed despite the obvious pain. "I think I twisted my ankle and tore up my knee pretty bad. I thought I could make it back on my own, but it's getting worse." The man stepped closer, careful. There was no cell service this deep in Rocky Mountain National Park, and the nearest ranger station was miles away. "I'm Jake," he said, kneeling to look without touching. "Park ranger. Doesn't look like anything's broken, but it's swelling fast." "Emma," she answered simply, leaving off her last name like she always did when she wanted to disappear. "I can help you to my truck. Closest hospital is an hour out, but I know basic first aid." "No hospitals," she said quickly, a mix of authority and plea in her voice. "I just need somewhere to rest and treat this. I'm allergic to certain meds. I prefer natural care." Jake studied her a second longer. Something in her tone, even injured, didn't match a regular hiker. "All right," he gave in. "I've got a cabin a few miles from here. I know medicinal plants." "Thank you," she said, her face softening. "I really don't want to be a burden." He offered his arm. She hesitated, clearly not used to needing anyone, then took it. "It's gonna hurt," he warned. "I'm used to pain," she answered, mysterious. The walk to the truck was slow and brutal. With every step, she bit her lip to keep from crying out. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Jake could tell she was running on pure willpower. "Want me to carry you the rest of the way?" "No," she said firmly. "I can walk." When they finally reached his old Ford, she was pale and shaking, but relief shone in her eyes. "I live just a few miles up the dirt road," Jake said, helping her into the passenger seat. "Road's bumpy. Tell me if it gets worse." She nodded and closed her eyes for a moment. That's when he noticed the understated but obviously expensive watch, the perfect manicure, the way she sat, even hurt, like someone who'd had years of posture training. The silence lasted until they turned onto the winding gravel drive lined with old pines. "I've got 2 kids," Jake said suddenly, as if the quiet needed filling. "Lucas and Sophie. They're gonna be curious. We don't get many visitors." "How old are they?" Emma asked, genuinely interested. "Lucas is the oldest, Sophie's the little one," he answered, keeping the numbers vague. "Been just the 3 of us since their mom passed 5 years ago." Emma caught the careful word choice. "Passed." "She left us," Jake clarified, reading her face. "Said life out here was too small. Wanted more than I could give her." There was no bitterness in his voice, just quiet acceptance. "I'm sorry," Emma said softly. "I was 2, for a long time," he admitted. "But some paths just split. I get that now." Before she could answer, the truck rounded the bend and a small log cabin appeared among the trees, surrounded by a neat garden bursting with medicinal herbs and vegetables. "We're home," Jake said, parking. "It ain't much, but it's ours." 2 curious faces popped up at the front window instantly. The kids bolted outside the second they saw their dad helping a stranger. "Daddy? Who's that?" Sophie asked, staring while Jake eased Emma down from the truck. "Someone who got hurt on the trail," he answered. "She's staying with us till she can walk again." He got Emma inside and settled her into the worn but comfortable armchair in the small living room. Lucas, ever observant, had already dragged over a stool for her leg. "Sophie, water for our guest." "Lucas, grab my first aid kit and the herbs from the garden, calendula, arnica, and sage." The kids moved like a well-practiced team. Emma watched, fascinated. In her world, children were rarely trusted with anything real. "You taught them about medicinal plants?" she asked as Jake gently examined her ankle. "Everything I know," he said simply. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. Plus, we live too far out to run to a doctor every time someone gets scraped up. Sophie returned with a glass of cold water, studying the stranger with wide eyes. Do you live in the big city? Emma smiled and took a sip. Yes, Denver. And please call me Emma. The city must be exciting, Lucas said, returning with the kit and a basket of fresh herbs. There was a quiet longing in his teenage voice. It has its moments, Emma said carefully, but it takes its toll. Jake made a poultice and pressed it gently to her ankle. She exhaled in relief as the swelling began to ease. What brings a city woman to our remote trails? He asked without looking up. The question caught her off guard. She'd come here to escape questions. I needed quiet, she said, surprising herself with the honesty. In the city, you rarely get a moment that's truly yours. Jake nodded like he understood completely. They ate simple vegetable soup and fresh-baked bread that night. Emma lost 2 chess games in a row to Lucas, regional champ, Jake said proudly. And for the first time in years, she felt something she'd almost forgotten. Belonging. Weeks turned into a month, then 2. The ankle healed slowly. The knee took longer. Emma kept finding reasons to stay. She helped Lucas with advanced math for the upcoming state competition. She drew pictures with Sophie. She worked in the garden beside Jake, hands in the dirt, feeling more at peace than she'd ever been in a boardroom. One night on the porch under a sky full of stars, Jake asked quietly, You gonna tell me who you really are, Emma? Or should I say Ms. Emma Harrington, CEO of Harrington Hospitality Group? She froze. I saw the name on your satellite phone when it finally got a bar, he said. No anger in his voice, just curiosity and maybe a little hurt. Why do you hide it? Because for the first time in my life, someone treated me like a person, not a net worth statement, she whispered. And because I fell in love with you and your kids. The confession hung between them in the mountain air. Jake looked out at the dark forest for a long time. I need time, he said finally. That's a lot to take in. The next morning, her corporate helicopter arrived. Protocol 7 emergency. Hostile takeover in progress. She left the exact envelopes on the kitchen table. One for Sophie's dental work, one for Lucas's university prep course, and a short note that simply read, Thank you for teaching me what matters. 6 months later, the new visitor center at Rocky Mountain National Park opened, funded quietly by the Harrington Foundation, designed with Jake's input, built to blend into the landscape. Emma stood in the back of the crowd on opening day. No press, no entourage, just her in jeans and hiking boots. Jake found her afterward. Coffee? He asked. They talked for hours, then weeks, then months. A year and a half after the day he carried her off the trail, they stood on the same path where it all began. I thought I rescued you that day, Jake said, taking her hand. You did? Emma answered, smiling up at him. Just not the way either of us expected. And under the same Colorado pines that had watched a billionaire hide from the world and a widowed ranger open his home to a stranger, 2 very different lives finally chose the same trail, together.